Now, once you have the hair all spread out on the foils, I lay more foils at the top of the weft of my shortest rows where I want highlights. Then I'm going to begin taking small sections from the wefts that I have spread out, and this is where my highlights will be placed, and I'm doing this right now just to separate the hair so that it will be easier to do the highlights after I've put the color on the hair. You can make these sections all different sizes. It's going so that it will give you various size chunks of highlights. You can make them very small so that you get just a slight highlight. You can make them very thick and very chunky so that you get thicker highlights. And you can also do more highlights, pull out more sections if you want a very highlighted look, or take out fewer sections if you just want a few bits of color. And then I'm going to take each section and I'm going to fold up the foils that I have placed at the top of the weft, and that's just going to be to separate the hair so that it's not in the way while I'm doing the rest of my coloring. Now it's time to mix our color. I'm going to take a darker color first, which is the H4 by L'Oreal High Color. I'm going to squeeze that into one section of the tint bowl. If you don't have a double-sided, just use two smaller bowls. Then I'm going to take my honey blonde color, H16, and I have 2 tubes of this, and I'm going to mix it in the other side of the bowl. This type of bowl is just easier for me to work with, but you don't have to have this type of bowl. Next, I'm going to add my developer. I'm using 30 volume Creme developer. You can use any brand of developer you like. It doesn't have to be this one. I'm using 5 ounces for the color where I use 2 tubes, and I'm using 2.5 ounces for the color where I use just 1 tube. You're to use 2.5 ounces of developer for each tube of color. And then I'm mixing all of the colors together, and make sure you mix thoroughly. Now I am applying the lighter color, the honey blonde, H16, and I'm applying it to certain sections of the hair in full strips, and I'm leaving the roots dark. I'm not going all the way up to the top of the weft. And then I'm going to apply the color to just the ends of other sections of hair to give somewhat of an ombre effect, where the ends of the hair will be just slightly lighter than the middle section of the hair, and then the roots, of course, are still going to be dark. Making sure that I thoroughly saturate the strands so that all of the hair is coated with the color. And now I'm going to be adding the darker color, the H4, to the portions of the hair where I did not already add the honey blonde. I am adding this and I'm overlapping the 2 colors very slightly on the sections where I put the honey blonde on the tips. And I'm making sure that with this color as well, I am leaving about 2.5 inches of roots left uncolored. And I'm going to make sure that I do this throughout the hair and keep it colored, and then cover the hair with foil so that it will process. And then I'm going to move the highlighted sections that I've already separated on top of the foil to place them out of the way so that I can begin coloring the longer lengths. I am putting the darker color, the H4, on all of the longer lengths. I'm making sure to saturate them very, very well with color to ensure that the strands are evenly coated and thoroughly coated. And I'm also leaving the roots dark and uncolored on the longer lengths as well. Once I'm finished applying the color, I then cover the longer lengths with foil as well to help speed up processing. Now it's time for the highlights. I will take my bleach powder and the developer and mix the 2 together. I'm mixing enough developer in the bleach so that I have a somewhat liquidy, creamy consistency. I don't want it to be too thick like pudding. I want it to be closer to the consistency of a cream conditioner, but not too runny. And now I'm taking the foil off of my highlighted sections and putting it underneath them. I'm putting each highlighted section on top of the foil that it was wrapped in and applying the bleach to each section. And I'm making sure to leave the root area untouched. I want the area that's left uncolored at the roots to be the same amount of space, which is about 2.5 inches, so that it blends seamlessly with the rest of the hair that's been dyed. Once I apply the bleach to each section of highlights, I then fold over the foil and wrap it up so that that will speed up the processing. And I continue this for each section of highlights that I have pulled apart. I'm going to let the bleach process along with the rest of the color on the hair for an additional 10 to 15 minutes. After 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to check the color on the hair by removing the foils just to make sure that it's the color that I desire. Everything does look good, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the foils and prepare to wash the hair. I'm going to remove the foils from the highlights as well because those have processed to the desired highlight color. And then I'm going to go ahead and wash the hair with a clarifying shampoo and then condition the hair with Root Porosity Control Conditioner to restore and balance the porosity of the hair. And then I will deep condition the hair as well. And here is the outcome of the hair after it has been washed, conditioned, and air dried. As you can see, some of the color is darker than other parts of the hair, which is exactly how I wanted it to turn out. The roots are dark. The color is a really nice chocolatey brown color. The highlights are a gorgeous golden brown, golden blonde, I'm sorry, like a honey blonde highlighted color that works perfectly with the base color of the hair. The color has a lot of dimension to it, and the dark roots make it easier to blend your natural hair with the extensions if you do have darker colored natural hair. It gives a more natural look where it looks like you've colored your hair and the color is starting to grow out. And you can see the highlights are fairly well blended throughout the entirety of the hair, the shorter lengths, and they're a nice size. And you can also see that the curl pattern of the hair has not been affected. It's still very nice and curly, and the conditioning that was done on the hair after color allows the hair to remain shiny and healthy without being extremely damaged from the chemical processing. And I know some of you may be wondering, if you do color and highlights on the hair before it's installed, how will you know where the highlights will fall once the hair is installed if you want them to fall in certain places? So I just want to leave you with some photos of the hair put together on a wig so you can see it is possible to do this without the hair being installed and still have the highlights fall naturally. Since I've done a lot of the shorter lengths of hair, I'm able to place the highlights where I want them simply by adjusting your track placement. I place the longer lengths of the solid color in the back, and the highlighted pieces, I made sure that I placed the wefts so that the highlights on the weft fall where I wanted them to fall. And you can see that the darker roots give the hair a lot of dimension as well as the multiple colors, so it does look like hair color and highlights that are growing out. And you can see where the highlights are and the color of the highlights. It does look very natural.